Hello and welcome to the 25th edition of the GreenWave podcast by Synergy International. I'm SYNI, your host, and today's topic is sustainability in sports, viewed through the lens of three very different but equally iconic stages. Allegiant Stadium in the shimmering furnace of Las Vegas, the meticulously manicured lawns of Wimbledon in southwest London, and the soon-to-be reborn Camp Nou, now officially Spotify Camp Nou, on the Mediterranean rim of Barcelona. Together, these venues form a kind of sustainability triathlon. One is a brand new colossus built in the desert. One is a living, breathing, Victorian-era tournament, kept evergreen by constant reinvention. And one is a 70-year-old football cathedral that is dismantling and rebuilding itself mid-season like a monarch butterfly in slow motion. What unites them is a shared conviction that sports' future depends on shrinking footprints, even while spectator numbers, broadcast audiences, and commercial expectations grow larger than ever. In short, they are trying to prove that the phrase big game and the phrase net zero do not have to live on different planets. Let's start in Vegas because, frankly, every sustainability conversation needs at least one over-the-top set piece for dramatic tension, and Allegiant Stadium delivers that in spades. The building resembles a polished obsidian UFO that has thoughtfully parked beside the I-15 so that 65,000 Raiders fans can file in beneath its carbon fibre eaves. What matters for our purposes is that in October 2024, Allegiant became the first NFL venue to certify that its operational electricity demand is met with 100% renewable energy sourced through a bespoke arrangement with NV Energy. That's not green power certificates buried in an annual report. It's as generated electrons flowing from a nearby solar farm and, when the sun ducks behind the Spring Mountains, from a portfolio of geothermal and hydro assets. The announcement landed on Green Sports Day, which is about as Vegas as sustainability press releases get. Day-glow confetti for an energy disclosure. But beneath the showmanship is genuine substance. The stadium's engineering team spent 3 years tightening HVAC efficiency, swapping legacy lighting for LEDs, and installing a building automation brain that can throttle ventilation in each seating block minute by minute. Add a finely tuned waste diversion protocol. Right now, they hover a hair above 50%, already good enough to win a Play to Zero Waste Leader award. And Allegiant secured LEED Gold certification with points to spare. In plain English, that means the Death Star turned out to be powered by sunshine and decent at sorting its trash. Humour me for a detour into plumbing. Every desert venue wrestles with water more fiercely than with energy, and Las Vegas water accounting is the stuff of late-night comedy writers. To understand why, picture a 65,000-seat pressure cooker that must keep grass green, nacho cheese viscous, and patrons hydrated without hoovering up the entire contents of Lake Mead. Allegiant uses a closed-loop field irrigation system that recirculates condensate captured from the roofline during those 5 minutes of annual rainfall, then supplements it with recycled water piped from the Clark County Water District. That loop also feeds the stadium's retractable natural grass tray. Yes, the entire playing surface rolls outdoors between games to bask in real sunlight, which means photosynthesis happens on the public sidewalk instead of under energy-hungry grow lights, slashing both water and kilowatt hours in one move. Advanced sensors buried beneath the sod read soil moisture every 15 minutes. If evaporation outpaces the algorithm's comfort zone, precision nozzles deliver just enough recycled water to keep roots happy without a single drop of overspray landing on the concrete apron. Beer cups do not irrigate lawns directly. Science still has work to do. But grey water recovery from concessions points trims potable use significantly. Behind the concourse walls, 2 subterranean storage tanks act as hydraulic shock absorbers. One balances peak demand, so halftime flushes don't spike city mains. The other stockpiles non-potable supply for overnight cleaning crews who pressure wash rows of seats while Vegas sleeps. The Raiders, one of the league's flashiest franchises, now brag about low-flow faucet fixtures with the same zeal they once reserved for quarterback passer ratings. They have even installed waterless urinals in the black hole section, a bold social experiment that doubles as a masterclass in behavioral nudging. If the rowdiest fans can adapt, anyone can. Progress sometimes looks like touring a restroom and being genuinely impressed. Slide sideways across the Atlantic, swap slot machines for strawberries, and you arrive on Church Road in SW19, where Wimbledon is preparing for another fortnight of tennis. Tradition drips from every ivy-clad brick, yet the All England Club's public-facing mantra is environment positive by 2030, which translates into 3 quantifiable pillars: net zero operational emissions, resource efficiency, and a net gain in biodiversity across their estate. Unlike Allegiant, Wimbledon doesn't control a single contained bowl. It orchestrates an ecosystem of 18 championship courts, dozens of practice courts, hospitality marquees, media compounds, and the world's fussiest queue. Their first lever is transport. More than half of spectators already arrive by rail or shuttle bus, and the club's ticketing algorithm now hard nudges would-be drivers toward public transit by withholding on-site parking unless you demonstrate carpooling bona fides. Second is waste. Paper-based ticketing disappeared years ago. Reusable coffee cups come with a deposit scheme, and food packaging is compostable or infinitely recyclable. Last year, 97% of tournament waste avoided landfill. Even the iconic Wimbledon towel is now woven from a recycled cotton blend, though joking that players will soon double fault from static cling has yet to gain traction. Finally, biodiversity. Bees occupy rooftop hives, orchids tuck into green walls, and peregrine falcons patrol the airspace as zero-emission pigeon control. If you want a symbol for the modern championships, picture a centre court roof that glides shut for rain delays, while simultaneously harvesting that rain for toilet flushing, all under the watchful eye of a bird of prey named Rufus. That's heritage and hardware working the same point. The numbers behind Wimbledon's footprint still matter. In a typical year, the tournament emits roughly 300,000 tonnes of CO2 equivalent when you count everything from aeroplane flights to Strawberry's road miles. About 2/3 of those total sits in fan and player travel. Electricity, temporary structures, and catering make up much of the remainder, with a sliver reserved for the not insignificant lawn care machinery that keeps the grass at 8mm. The club has publicly committed to cut that in half by 2030 and to offset or sequester the rest through verified woodland regeneration projects inside the United Kingdom. Critics sometimes argue that offsetting is a polite word for outsourcing guilt, but the counterpoint is that the All England Club puts an internal carbon price on every menu decision, currently £120 per tonne, which is why vegan falafel stalls have spread faster than predictions of an Alcaraz-Sinner final rematch swirl around the grounds. Ask a fan about their draw predictions, and they may answer with a life cycle assessment of oat milk. That is mission drift in the best possible direction. The internal levy also funds behind-the-scenes upgrades, chillers swapped for propane-based refrigeration, induction hobs replacing gas burners, and a grounds vehicle fleet, now more electric than petrol. Even the famed strawberry farms must file annual emissions reports. If a grower's fertilizer regimen looks heavy, their contract renewal is politely delayed until soil health metrics improve. Meanwhile, data crunching interns run scenario models in which centre court night matches, powered by off-site wind PPAs, reduce tournament emissions by a further 7%. Numbers may not win trophies, but they do decide which pairs of hands hold them under LED lights that sip instead of guzzle. Now, ferry south to Catalonia, where FC Barcelona's home ground is in a state of constructive disarray. Demolition work on the old third tier began last year, Cranes loom over the district like cybernetic giraffes. When finished, Spotify Camp Nou will field 18,000 square metres of solar panels, geothermal loops under the pitch, a district heating and cooling system capable of slashing energy demand by 30%, and a rainwater collection network channeling runoff into an underground cistern the size of an Olympic swimming pool. The club's engineers claim the roof array alone can generate up to 3.6 megawatt hours per match day, enough to power lighting, broadcasting, and the espresso machines that keep commentators awake for post-midnight kickoffs. Because many home fixtures kick off after sunset, Barca will export excess solar generation to the grid by day and draw it back via a virtual battery contract at night, effectively time-shifting sunshine across the scoreboard. Transport again becomes the big wild card. Only about 15% of match-going cules, Catalan slang for Barca fans that derives from the days last century when fans would sit on the wall surrounding the stadium for a gratis glimpse of their heroes, currently drive, thanks to Barcelona's dense metro network, but the new campus design doubles bicycle parking, expands tram stops, and folds a pedestrian boulevard straight through the stadium precinct so locals can treat the site as a public park on non-match days. When management pitched renders of this tree-lined walkway, one Catalan journalist quipped that the club was finally giving fans a route to walk off the existential weight of last season's defensive lapses. Shade helps, literally and figuratively. Camp Nou's renovation is also financing itself through a €1.4 billion green bond issuance, verified under the ICMA green bond principles, targeting institutional investors hungry for credible ESG assets, with the side benefit of Lionel Messi nostalgia. The paper was 5 times oversubscribed within 48 hours, drawing orders from Scandinavian pension funds, Dutch insurers, and one Californian endowment that allegedly asked whether naming rights to a single solar panel could be bundled in as swag. In practical terms, that means every euro spent on energy efficiency upgrades, recycled steel, and low-carbon concrete carries a reporting obligation. Quarterly impact reports will detail kilowatt-hours saved, tons of CO2 avoided, and the percentage of construction waste that never sees a landfill, all assured by a Big Four audit firm that admits carbon counting has become its most spirited new revenue line. Fail to meet performance thresholds and coupon rates step up. The step up is 25 basis points at year 5 and another 25 at year 8, enough to turn boardroom coffee into triple espressos whenever the sustainability officer clears her throat. Nothing concentrates a board's mind like the risk of paying extra interest because your new facade missed its embodied carbon target. There is even a clause allowing fan representatives, the famous socios, to demand disclosure meetings if the club veers off its environmental pathway, effectively giving the average season ticket holder more leverage over carbon policy than over transfer gossip. Allegiant's path was to build to spec and celebrate later. Wimbledon's was to retrofit incrementally. Barca's is to put the entire stadium on performance-linked debt steroids. It is sustainability by spreadsheet, stadium design by capital market carrot and stick. 3 different philosophies, 1 goal. At this point, you might wonder how these stories add up beyond stadium design case studies. Enter the Green Sports Alliance and its Play to Zero platform, essentially the global scoreboard for net zero bragging rights. Allegiant snagged its Energy Champion badge last year and its Waste Leader badge the year before. Wimbledon is using the framework to benchmark Scope 1 and Scope 2 reductions, while Barca has declared an intent to publish Play to Zero metrics once the first phase of S by Barca opens in 2026. The programme's true value is not the acrylic plaques. It is the common language that lets facility managers in Vegas, London, and Barcelona swap schematics for composting logistics the way coaches swap scouting reports. Even the NFL and La Liga, which agree on almost nothing except how much they love broadcast revenue, now speak fluent tons of CO2 avoided. That may not thrill fans looking for a left-back signing, but it delights sponsor compliance officers and, increasingly, municipal regulators who license these events. Let's zoom out and rank the main levers each venue is pulling. Allegiant bets big on renewable energy procurement and building management software in a resource-scarce climate. Wimbledon pushes visitor behaviour change and biodiversity gains on a heritage footprint. Camp Nou rewrites the stadium DNA itself, embedding generation and storage. All wrestle with fan travel, which remains the single largest slice of any event scope. 3 emissions pie. Las Vegas is experimenting with discounted monorail rides, bundled into ticket QR codes. Wimbledon's ticket ballot now tracks the postcode of every winner to model likely transit patterns. Barca is negotiating with Renfe to add late-night high-speed trains to Madrid after marquee fixtures, which doubles as a safe ride policy for away fans. None of these steps is as photogenic as a solar roof, but they matter more to the climate ledger than the colour of the seats. Of course, sustainability doesn't live in a vacuum. It lives in budgets, broadcast contracts, fan psychology, and the occasional cynical tweet. Allegiant's power purchase agreement was viable only because Nevada's regulatory framework lets large customers shop for green tariffs. Wimbledon's pledge to halve emissions leans on the UK grid's rapid decarbonisation trajectory. Barca's solar panel payback period assumes European electricity prices stay north of 0.2 euros per kilowatt hour, something no one predicted 10 years ago. Risk meet opportunity. Clubs that treat sustainability as a branding flourish will discover that kilowatt hours and water meters are spectacularly indifferent to press releases. Conversely, those who bake sustainability into core operations often unearth competitive advantage, lower operating costs, stickier sponsorships, and a recruiting edge with athletes who increasingly ask, "What's your climate plan?" when signing contracts. There's also a cultural dimension. Raiders fans who once prided themselves on pirate ship aesthetics now post selfies beside recycling robots shaped like R2-D2. Wimbledon spectators whisper respectfully about ball speed and bee colonies in the same breath, a quintessentially British blend of statistics and horticulture. In Barcelona, supporters follow construction progress live streams, the way gamers follow patch notes, dissecting every steel beam for its recycled content percentage. If you believe that sport reflects society, then society seems ready, eager even, to incorporate climate literacy into the box score. Yet, cautionary tales lurk. Stadium operators can be tempted by sustainability theatre, the photo-op electric bus that runs one match day per year, or the biodegradable cutlery that ends up in general waste because signage is confusing. The solution is relentless measurement. Allegiant publishes monthly dashboards showing energy mix, water use, and waste diversion. Wimbledon issues a post-championship sustainability report thicker than most academic theses. Barca's bond covenants force them to disclose construction phase embodied carbon down to the ton. Transparency breeds iteration. Iteration breeds progress. Progress keeps auditors happy and fans loyal. Before we land this episode, let me plant a provocation. Sustainability used to be the sideshow at sporting conferences, wedged between sessions on merchandising and digital fan engagement. 2 decades ago, the Green Panel drew the graveyard slot after lunch, its speakers competing with the lure of free cappuccinos in the sponsor village. But the ground has shifted under our feet, like a sprung-loaded centre court. Today, it's the plenary session, the main event. CEOs now angle for keynote slots to unveil decarbonisation roadmaps the way they once previewed third jersey designs, and broadcast networks demand carbon footprint data alongside player stats for on-screen infographics. Why? Because climate risk has flipped from abstract future cost to immediate balance sheet line item. Insurance premiums spike when 100-year storms arrive every 6, and a stadium that floods twice in one season suddenly looks like a line item impairment rather than a civic jewel. Heat waves postpone kickoffs, torrential rain waterlogs training pitches, wildfire smoke cancels youth tournaments. Ask the Youth Soccer League in California that lost an entire playoff weekend to PM 2.5 readings off the charts, or the Rugby Sevens players in Sydney who sprinted through 43 degrees Celsius air thick enough to chew. Allegiant in July can feel like the inside of a pizza oven if you shut off ventilation. Wimbledon's grass courts turn brown if the club mismanages irrigation. Catalonia is in its worst drought in decades. Those are not hypotheticals. They are line items in the groundskeeping budget. The planet is sending sporting directors an invoice, and the venues we've examined are attempting to pay it forward rather than wait for interest charges in the form of cancelled fixtures and brand damage. So where do we, the sustainability professionals, fit in? We design the metrics, structure the finance, call out the greenwashing, and celebrate the wins. We translate lofty net zero pledges into granular spreadsheets that track kilowatt hours by circuit breaker and litres by valve. We build green bond frameworks robust enough to survive due diligence, yet flexible enough to fund a rainwater cistern shaped like a club crest. We help Raiders fans understand why a desert stadium can credibly talk about water stewardship. We help tennis traditionalists see that carbon-neutral strawberries are not an oxymoron. We help Barca supporters appreciate that a photovoltaic roof is as much part of club identity as a tiki-taka goal. And we train commentators to pronounce per and polyfluoroalkyl on live TV without spraining a vocal cord, because chemical literacy is now a broadcast competency. Most importantly, we remind rights holders that every watt saved and every kilogram of waste diverted is a public demonstration that climate solutions are practical, profitable, and, dare I say, fun. Nothing sells decarbonisation quite like a last-minute touchdown, a fifth-set tiebreak, or a stoppage time winner under lights powered by the sun. That's why the Play to Zero scoreboard matters. It turns sustainable conduct into competitive swagger. And sport, at its core, is the universal language of competitive swagger. Well, that's a wrap on our 25th GreenWave podcast episode. We appreciate you sharing your time. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, Podbean, Podchaser, Boomplay, and Player FM. So feel free to follow the pod and share with friends. We'd love if you would leave a review. If you have missed any of our LinkedIn posts or the GreenWave Gazette, you can always catch us on LinkedIn, X, Facebook, Instagram, or visit synergy-international.net. We'll keep reflecting on the trends shaping sustainable finance and global policy. Until next time, keep riding the green wave of sustainability.